Going live, Zoom, preparing the stream.
Yo, it says we're live, I think. Yo, what's up, everybody? There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Right now, I'm just waiting. Yeah, we are live. Sweet, sweet. So, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream tonight. I know that we didn't give you guys a ton of notice, but thank you guys for showing up, those of you that are here. So, I'm going to wait just another couple, probably just another few seconds for some people to just hop in. Okay. Um, but it's good to see everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Yo, Nate's in the house.
Oh, Nate
Andrew
2v2.
Graham. Yeah, Nate's here. Yep.
Nice. Connor.
Andrew Graham, what's up, Connor? Oh yeah, we got the
Oh,
squad in here. D New.
hey,
What's up,
D
D New?
News. D News not a mod yet, brother.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, Kathy Martin got a memer as part of the meme dream
Nice.
team. The name's green. That means she's a memer. Dope. So yeah, we're just waiting just another minute for more people to just hop in. Jolene, another memer. What's up, Jolene? Good to see you. And I'm just looking at my phone down here because it's not going to show up on my screen. Long story, but yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. So yeah. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. Yo, real quick though, Kenneth Cole, what's up, my man? I miss you, man. This is one of my buddies. He moved overseas, so it's good to read from him here. So he's down in Singapore. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
good to see you, Kenneth. Um, all right, yeah. So let's go ahead and get going. So thank you guys for joining. And so you guys with me today, I have Sean Hurst. A lot of you that follow my channel probably already know who he is. But if you don't know who he is, Sean is like my sidekick. He really works with me to make all the things kind of move on this channel too. So he's been helping a lot for the last maybe how long, Sean? Maybe now about 4 months or so, maybe, or
Oh,
maybe has it been longer?
no, it's been
I'm
long
bad at
since April
bad at
or
numbers,
May. April or May, I
something like that.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, it has been
think.
that long. It's right. No, yeah, I think you're right. That's right. Yeah. I'm really bad at remembering dates and stuff because I'm just like day by day. Anyways, but so yeah, so Sean, so with everything that's been going on today too, and actually let me just preface it by saying this. Everything that's been going on these last couple of days has been crazy, right? I'm sure like you guys have probably been following the news too to be like, what is going on? Especially like I'd say like last night to me after while we were doing the live stream, because I did a live stream on Mike Winger's channel. And right before we went live, I saw come in that Iran sent out some missiles, sent out the 12 missiles for the camps. And so that's why I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? I was like, I can't believe they did that, right? So we're going to unpack everything that kind of happened really briefly. And then also we're going to talk about the Christian perspective to this situation. We'll just try to give a couple quick kind of pointers and tips and ways to kind of think for the Christians to be able to think about this situation. Um, so when we start, so there's a reason why I had Sean come onto this channel today, so that way we can talk about this. Sean, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are and just kind of brief description of your background?
Okay. Yeah, thanks, brother. So, first of all, I really appreciate you having me on. And
Of course.
Um, my wife and I have a channel, Believing Thinkers. A lot of you guys already know of that. I have been a pastor over the many, many years, as well as now working in philosophy and theology. But right while I was finishing up an undergrad degree, about 3 months after my wife and I got married, we got married in July of 2001, and September 11th happened. And so I was off into the military. I was in the recruiter's office on September 12th, like a lot of men and women. And big change for Erica to, she's thinking she's married a pastor, and now I'm off deploying for basic training, and then eventually serving in infantry units and combat units and whatnot, and doing all kinds of high speed stuff. 2010, I officially retired. So I've spent quite a bit of time. I won't give my whole what we call DD 214, which just is the paperwork you get that says all the stuff you did. But I've also done protection work and other stuff, and finish. I've been teaching training and those types of things as well for years. So that's a little
Cool.
bit of my background.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And so outside of that too, so you guys know Sean used to be a pastor, right? And also has been studying He's been doing a lot of work in theology and philosophy as well too. So that's why I think he'd be like the perfect person to have on here with me, to get a perspective, an educated perspective from kind of both sides, from the military side and also from the Christian side as well too, and also a Christian who's understands theology, philosophy, and understands, has a pastor's heart is what I want to say. So awesome. So Sean, that's awesome, man. So why don't we just go ahead and now brief people, for the people that don't understand like what's going on, or you kind of got lost in the rhetoric and the all of the jargon that's been kind of going on a little bit with this situation. What kind of led up to this moment that we're in today with Iran?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, you've got everything from the late 1970s where the Ayatollah Khomeini and they had the revolution and changed power, and a lot of sort of proxy wars and or just chaos going on between the two of us. Iran is considered to be one of the largest state sponsors of terror. Now, again, let me preface anything I say tonight. I will try to make sure that I say they are accused of being and not directly state that it's something is the case, because I don't want to get John in trouble legally, for making a claim that where it may not have been proven in a court of law. So we don't want that, and we're not trying to make them, paint them in a bad light by quoting irrelevant or untrue facts. But just in the recent past, I've got a report here. This actually was issued out on the 27th of December, which comes from Stratfor, which is a intelligence news source. They have a bunch of men and women on staff that are former like CIA intelligence officers and different countries' intelligence officers. So what they do is they take a lot of data and then analyze it and put out intelligence reports. These reports are available to anyone in the general public, so I'm not too worried about saying anything in here that's going to be classified. And I have to also remember that when I talk about our capabilities later on, to try not to mention anything that would get put anyone at risk. So just in this last few months, on September 14th, Iran had attacked with a cruise missile Saudi oil facilities, and that was on September 14th. And the provocation by Iran and its proxies against Saudi Arabia and regional shipping have ebbed. So they've sort of had come down to in a decline. But in other words, notice here they're attacking Saudi oil facilities already. They're not exactly playing nice. If we go back, let me share my screen a little bit further than that. I want to refresh everyone's memory too. So regardless of what you think of Iran, if you remember, you guys might remember this instant. Oops, screen off here. This photograph is when, after the former administration had given Saudi Arabia, I don't remember how many billions of dollars it was, quite a bit of money. They went ahead and captured some patrol boats that I think were in the Gulf of Hormuz, I think if I remember correctly, and had captured the crew on those patrol boats and held them hostage, or maybe not hostage because they would have considered it a military interdiction. And that is problematic because we were in good relations with them at the time, and they didn't care. I mean, they just received this money from the former administration. We were playing nice with them, and obviously that really didn't do much. And by the way, this is and guys, these are tan shirts, so no one's bare skinned here. Okay, these are all guys. One's dressed as a woman here. They're reenacting this, and they're depicting the Americans as being obese and overweight and just sucking their thumb, and so they obviously are not holding Americans in very high regard here, which is fine. I'm not gonna hate on them for that. That's not my point. But so that's back, I forget what year that was, 2014, 2015, when all this is going on. Again, flipping back to the more recent timeline. So from September 14th, then going on to November 4th, Iran announced that it would take additional steps to abandon some of its obligation under the Joint Comprehensive Plan action, so which is colloquially known as the Iran nuclear deal. So in other words, they said, no, we're going back on that. They started re-enriching uranium, basically. So just to sort of paint this picture that they're doing missile strikes, they're on foreign interests, they're going back on this Iran nuclear deal. Now, obviously, one could argue, well, it's sort of tit for tat. You know, the current administration provoked them, so they did this or that. All I'm simply trying to do is paint a picture here that it's not like all of a sudden we just sort of killed this leader, which I'll talk about in a minute, if you want me to, John, and then all of a sudden this whole thing erupted.
So what you're kind of saying is that because this goes back to 1979, roughly, right? And so that's where it's kind of been a long, ongoing history, a relationship between Iran and America as well, too. And so Sean's kind of highlighting just kind of a lot of the points that kind of led to this moment where we're at. It doesn't matter really where you stand politically. These are just kind of like the facts of what happened, some of the stuff that led up to this point. So now that we're there, let's just kind of be clear on who Soleimani was. Do you want to talk about Soleimani and his past?
Yeah, so Soleimani, and I'll try to do this in a coherent fashion that also kind of follows a timeline, but you know, I don't want to get too overly detailed with some of that. I want to hit the facts that are important more than anything else. So Soleimani, let me share my screen again here. I want you guys to see this. This is I think this was a post on his Instagram account I'm going to show you guys a couple images here. So let me just share my screen one more time. And could you see that the last time I did it, John? Were you able to see the screen share the last time? Yeah, okay. All right, so
yeah, I could.
Okay, let me see. Here's a good one. So this is from 2018, and Soleimani shares this image. Now, if you can't see what that is there, that's Soleimani in front of the White House, and obviously it's being blown up, and the American flag there is tattered and torn. And in English, right here in the image, it says, "We will crush the U.S. under our feet." This is from July of 2018, if I remember correctly. Now, again, you know, one might argue, well, yeah, but he did this because the current president or administration, somebody said something he didn't like. Well, I don't know that it requires this sort of reaction. And moreover, this isn't, you know, name calling and bolstering, coming back and forth. That the threat here is pretty obvious what he's saying. And in fact, he stated it explicitly here in English, that we will crush the U.S. under our feet. Just for one more, let me see if I have another one here from Soleimani. I do. It's on. Where did I put that?
And so we're clear too. Who is, or what is his role, Soleimani?
So he was. That's a good question. He was the Quds Force commander. Now the Quds forces were directly, and still are. They are an asymmetrical warfare group, and what that means essentially is that their whole mission is to get in by small unit tactics, usually in small groups, and disrupt and cause. It's basically terrorism, but to be fair, you know, as a military guy, we wouldn't call it that. You would essentially say asymmetric warfare is sort of get in and cause trouble, essentially. I'm trying to use simple terms to understand here, because if I start, you know, using too much military vernacular, it may confuse some of the viewers. And so here he even makes this threat of using, he says, "Mr. Trump, the gambler, don't threaten our lives. You are well aware of our power and capabilities in the region. You know how powerful we are at asymmetrical warfare." And so I don't know what that, I don't remember what that's in response to, but again, that's an older post. So just to sort of paint a picture of the kinds of things that he's outputting, and these are on like Twitter and I think it was Instagram. It's not like they're, you know, he's hiding it, so to speak.
So he had a gram? Oh, that's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So where these things where Woods can't even get, you know, to post stuff, dude's allowed to put, you know, blowing up the White House and whatnot. So,
yeah, seriously, they won't let a Christian. Yeah. Anyways, it's just funny. Yeah, David Wood can't even get an Instagram.
Right.
Money.
Yeah, or Twitter. Yeah. But Soleimani's he's cool. He's all right. Yeah. So some of the things that Soleimani was responsible for. So two that I want to talk about that are different timelines, and I'll come to some of the other points. First is that according to multiple Iranian intelligence sources, okay, who reported this to Kenneth Timmerman, who wrote a book about Benghazi, he had confirmed that Soleimani had orchestrated the attack on Benghazi. All right, and the reason for that is that apparently it's accused, all right, or it's been stated that what was happening was Syrian rebels were getting weapons from the U.S. through those outposts. Now, how they were getting them, in other words, were the U.S. directly giving them, or were they stealing them, or was the U.S. trying to buy them back? I'm not entirely certain of those details, and I want to be careful there. But nevertheless, Soleimani sees that and doesn't want these Syrian rebels getting these weapons. So what's happening is, in order to stop it, he orchestrates now and funds the attack on the Benghazi compounds there. And of course, again, this is allegedly, but it's coming from good sources. If those that receive this information from those sources, if everything lines up, that's a pretty big deal. Now, why is that such a big deal to us? Right? Maybe it's just a bad dude having a bad day, or maybe he thought he was doing something justified. He's also the one who orchestrated the recent attack on the American embassy in Iraq. So it's sort of no surprise when you start thinking about all of these attacks that he starts orchestrating. In addition,
what was the attack on the American embassy? Just kind of what happened?
So essentially what he did there, it is alleged that Soleimani went in and sent his militia groups that he was in charge of, and they went in there and they tore up that U.S. embassy a week ago. I think it was on last Thursday.
About a week, yeah.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm wrong. The date, I may have the day may not be exact. And so what happens is these militia members, and if you look at the photos of the people in there tearing them up, they're in not just BDUs, but they're in pretty modern BDUs that I recognize, multicams and whatnot. And so I'm thinking these are not just your average kid who wants to wear, something cool that looks like you're a soldier. These are actual full uniforms and whatnot. And so, they're in uniforms like this, and it's again alleged, and I think it's coming from credible intel sources, that these are in fact militia members that fight under Soleimani. Some of them are funded under him, and they've gone into this U.S. embassy in Iraq, and they didn't just tear it up like, put their feet on the coffee table or something. They set fire to it. They were smashing the windows in. They were doing quite a bit of damage to the building. Had the U.S. troops not pulled back and received reinforcements, I'm going to make an inductive statement here that I think it's very probabilistic that people could have lost their lives. And these windows, too, were fortified. I mean, U.S. embassies like this overseas, particularly in Iraq, are going to be fortified. So they're going to have bullet-resistant glass and whatnot. It's not like it's just, common household window glass. So to break that, and they set fire to the building and whatnot, I don't think they were in there just to say hi. So in addition to that, you've got that going on. I mentioned him being in charge of the Quds forces and asymmetrical warfare, but one of the primary missions of the Quds forces is to basically destroy Israel, to get in there and to disrupt and to cause trouble from within. Soleimani has also helped with the placement of different types of ballistic missiles throughout not only Iran, but Iraq and Syria, with them aimed at Israel as well. So, I mean, that's pretty much been a big goal of his. And then lastly, actually there's two more points. He was a mastermind of a plot to assassinate a Saudi ambassador in Washington, guys, just so you're aware of this, in the US at the Watergate Hotel. And so, you have to think about that. He's not, again, some of these things I can understand, militaries do to other militaries, I get that. But the problem is asymmetrical warfare stuff is not force on force type stuff. It's, again, most would consider it, sort of terroristic guerrilla warfare, if those of you are familiar with the term. Very, very, very dirty fighting. He's said to be responsible for hundreds of U.S. personnel's deaths, including the last one, which was a U.S. contractor who was killed by an orchestrated, I believe it was a rocket attack of his. And then lastly, his men, militia members, have been known to torture their prisoners. And you may say, well, U.S. tortured their prisoners with power tools, John, with a drilling holes. And you may say, well, maybe it was to prevent an imminent attack. He was doing it to a child from a village that they had taken over. So in other words, these dudes were just wreaking havoc like ISIS and whatnot. These aren't Now, does that mean that he commanded that? No, not necessarily, but he's still responsible. Any good commander will tell you they're still responsible for the actions of their men. So I find that, pretty appalling. So this isn't exactly a nice guy, you know what I mean? So
No,
go
that's
ahead,
good.
Brett.
So, yeah, no, that's good. So, now let's just really quick. So let's just kind of get to where we're at today now. So that was kind of the background between kind of a little bit of the tension and the beef with Iran and the U.S. And then we get to just like when we went to go bomb Soleimani. And so when we went to bomb him, so obviously he's one of the highest powers in Iran. He's I think the second highest power, right?
Yeah.
From what I'm aware. Not yet. So he's the second highest power in Iran. So this is a huge deal, right? For us to take him out with the drone strike. And so, so the U.S. obviously, the U.S. says it's because of, because he was a terrorist and because he was plotting more harm towards Americans and so on, right? And so Trump kind of made it clear too. He's like, if they do anything, right? He's like, then we're just going to take them out, right? You know what I mean? He's like, we have 52 targets ready to go. You know what I mean? He's like, so if they do anything, we're just going to take them out. And then come last night, I couldn't believe it before I went on the live stream with Mike, I saw it came in on my phone right before we went live too, where it said Iran fired a dozen missiles or whatever, a couple dozen missiles or whatever it was,
Yeah.
the Army base, the U.S. Army bases. Oh, go ahead, Sean. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So at that point, like I was certain, I was like, okay, now it's going down because because they've been talking a lot of stuff too, right? Them and Trump and, America and them. So I said at that point, it's like an ego thing where they have no choice. They said they promised that they were going to get revenge on America, right? And then so for them to send those missiles says that like they're not backing down, and America is obviously not backing down, right? Trump already made that clear that America's not going to back down. So that was a huge deal for them to do that. So now, according to their reports, from what I heard their reports, they said that they killed 80 soldiers and wounded 200 more. Then this morning, I'm sure most of you probably caught the press conference from Trump talking about the situation. And he says that it was only, or that there were no casualties and that nobody was hurt. So this is where things really get interesting. And I want to make sure that, Sean, did you want to touch on any of that I just talked about before we move on?
Yeah. So real quick, that I saw some overlays or some overhead photos of the where the missiles landed on these bases, and it's a good thing that they didn't hit any U.S. soldiers. They did hit. I saw one of them look like it landed on an airfield, and it was interesting. It actually did hit one of the tents on the airfield, and when I say tents, basically this is not like a tent like you and I would sleep in, or for camping or whatever. This is storing or hiding aircraft from overhead surveillance, essentially, and or protecting it from, wind, rain, whatever. These are very large. It landed in a set of three of them, smack dab in the middle, on the middle one. And so there's some targeting going on there. So they certainly were trying to kill. At first I thought, well, they probably just did that to posture, but it's really easy to do that and then miss. The other thing is these are ballistic missiles, if I understand correctly. Judging from the size of the impact crater, these are serious warheads. These aren't like I've had tons of RPGs shot at me. I've had 107 rockets, which the actual explosive shell is like this big, shot at me. I've had some pretty serious ordnance leveled at me, mortars. A ballistic missile is no joke. I mean, you're talking about taking out a few homes, depending on the payload that's in that, the amount of explosives that's in this type of a warhead. So they're not playing around, but I just want to sort of point that out to sort of paint a picture of what happened there in terms of these rockets. But a lot of them seem to have landed on the airfield or near it. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, and so here's why things are interesting is because they talked about how there was closer camps and bases, right? But they went for these ones that were further, and they were saying that this was probably a way where they knew it wasn't going to be that much damage, you know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. It wasn't going to be that much damage and that sort of thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you raised a good point there, and you may be already about to say this, but what's interesting is the two camps, one was near a Kurdish area and the other was near, I always invert this, the Sunni and the Shiites.
It's a Sunni. I believe
so it was Sunni. Near the,
oh,
was
yeah,
it near,
Shiite.
Yeah, it was near the Shia. It was near the opposite of the Iranian. In other words,
Yeah.
the ones that showed up. So the two groups that didn't show up for this vote to kick American forces out in this from Iraq in a meeting there, we happened to be the ones that had the bases attacked. Now, again, I got to draw an inference there. I can't say absolutely. The Ayatollah Khomeini didn't call me up earlier tonight before we got on and go, oh yeah, Sean, that's why. So I can't say for certain, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so this is where, man, and it got so interesting because when I watched Trump's press conference, and I know you're gonna have some stuff to say about this too. It seemed like Trump was being very strategic at that point, right? So he was, what I thought he was doing, it seemed clearly strategic in my opinion, because what he did first, he was talking about like, it looks like, no, there were no casualties, you know what I mean? No casualties. So it looks like they've backed down, you know what I mean? And they're seeking peace, which is good because we want peace too, and unity and all this other stuff. And so that puts them in a position where now Trump is protected because if they initiate more violence, then it looks like, then obviously the world sees that they're the ones that are inciting the violence and starting the war, right? Because Trump proclaimed peace. But also he did it in kind of like this way that he was framing it. So that way they kind of had to take this, you know what I mean? Because they had to retaliate at some point. They promised retaliation. Everybody is mad. You don't just take out one of their head commanders and nothing happens, right? They had to retaliate. And so Trump tried to make it where, as at least it seemed to me, at least he made it where this happened, or he made it seem like they retaliated, you know what I mean? And even though nothing happened, it was a fair game and it was retaliation, and we kind of leave it at that, So now if they do anything else, then it just doesn't look like escalation. It looks like they're actually starting a new conflict, So he was strategic in that front. There's a couple more things he did strategic, but Sean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100% that it was brilliant because what he's done is he said, look, there's no loss of life. You shot your rockets. And honestly, if they have to appease their people and say, oh, we got them, those terrible Americans, and that makes everything all right, whatever, that's fine. They can say whatever they want to say because they've got to look good. And if that solves the problem and there's no loss of life, fine. I doubt very seriously if there was that many killed or injured that we wouldn't. I mean, come on, that's
report it. Well, see, and that's an interesting thing though, right? So like if Trump's lying about this, then that would be terrible though, right? Like everybody be ticked off. But I was thinking, what if he's using that for a strategic angle as well? Because they believe that they've decimated, if they do really believe that they decimated and killed all of these American soldiers, then if he uses that as a play, then, you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, they didn't get anybody, it's all good. You know what I mean? So it could be part of the strategy, but that does seem more unlikely, but everything's so crazy in this world today. Who knows?
Yeah, it would be hard to hide the deaths of 80 soldiers because their families would be coming out and going, what? No, that's not what happened. My son or daughter died, and in droves. You'd have somebody that would leak it.
Well, so with the rules of the military, is it legal to, or I guess, could they withhold that information from the family for now, given that we're in kind of like a state of pre-war or something like that?
In theory, they could do it logistically, certainly. They could certainly do it. I find it hard to believe they'd be able to lock down that much of it, but I'm not saying they couldn't do it either. Are they capable? Let me say it that way. Yes. Is it probable? No. Is it possible? Yes. So there's, just want to define the difference between those two. But I do think I agree, it's a smart tactic because the other thing is now, I look at it this way too, that essentially by Trump doing that, what has occurred is Iran don't forget, is launching weapons outside of their country into another country. So it's not like we're inside their country and they're attacking us. At that point, people are just going to say, get out of their country. So it's a little bit different here where they're launching attacks into another sovereign nation's territory and launching those attacks on military bases that are currently, unless this has changed, my understanding is they're currently still allowed to be there. So you've got, another sovereign nation with U.S. military personnel that are there and by the way, they were there for what purpose? To help the Iraqi forces drive out ISIS. So, you just have to sort of keep that in mind. I don't want to talk about troop sizes and whatnot too much because I don't want to put anyone in danger and I don't have all that G2 or intelligence, but So at any way, it sort of puts the ball back in the Iranians' courts. It forces them now to look really bad. Because at this point, if you look at it this way, they launch 12 missiles. All right, it's done. It's done. If they launch another attack, all of a sudden they're going to be painted as the doofuses that they are. That they just want to. They're the ones that want to start the conflict, which may be what's going on with that jetliner that went down. Which I don't know if you want to talk about that now or later at all, but.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. That's good. Real quick, I got a super chat from Radical Love.
Oh,
what's up,
awesome.
Radical Love? Says, stay on topic, peeps. Hit that like button. Thank you, Sean, for serving our country. And I think she's referring to the people in the chat, maybe, or maybe he's talking about us. I don't know, because I think we've been on topic, I think, right?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I think it's people in the chat. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah. So, hey, thank you, Radical Love, for the Radical Love, right?
It's
Thank
good
you.
to see her back on. Yeah, she's awesome person.
Yep.
So.
Sure is. Absolutely. So, so now let's move a little bit into the Christian side of the situation. So there's a lot that could be said about, Christianity and politics, that sort of thing. But there's a historical perspective that's been typically given that kind of gives the ethical boundaries for when we go to war. That is past. I mean, it goes back even like Augustine, and so it's like in the history of like Christian thought, and it's called just war theory. And so with just war theory, there's 6 principles that they give for like the ethical conditions and boundaries that Christians should maintain when it comes to considerations of going to war or I guess like serious conflict, that sort of thing. The first one is the war must be for a just cause. Okay, so it's got to be for a just cause. It can't be for an unjust cause, of course. But that does sound subjective, right? But right, because they're going to think their cause is just. But anyways, it's a good way to think about it. Say, is this a just cause? Is this an ethical cause? And they would say the war must be lawfully declared by a lawful authority. So it can't be like me and Sean going to decide to declare war, right? It says the intention behind the war must be good. Again, kind of subjective, but it's a good principle, if you can follow it out objectively, so is the intention behind this war good, or is it for greed or gain or money? So this kind of gives Christians a way to ponder, like Trump, for example. He would, given Trump's Christian, he would have to ponder these things, right? It says all other ways of resolving the problem should have been tried first, which I think is, obviously pretty ethical. There must be a reasonable chance of success. And the last one would be the means used must be in proportion to the end that the war seeks to achieve. So, Sean, do you have any kind of thoughts on just war theory? I know it's kind of like a thing that gets talked about a lot, and but
I do. I have a couple thoughts, and I agree with everything you just said, which I think I would push back on one of those points. And I do want to say, this is a caveat that may seem unrelated, that there are going to be those that say, well, Trump's not allowed to declare war according to the War Powers Act, and say, yeah, that's fine. But there are certain things that he can do, and he hasn't declared a war yet. So I just want to throw that out there. That's not what we're saying he's done. To my knowledge, he hasn't declared war on anyone. He's just retaliated for acts that have gone against American personnel and interests. On point, is it 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5, there must be a reasonable chance of success. The only one there that I would want to kind of push back on the creator of this is that I think for me, I hear that and I go, well, we may have something that's incredibly just, but the chance of success might be minute. We've faced several battles like that in World War II, both in the Pacific and in Europe. And so the Battle of Bastogne, or the Battle of the Bulge, if anybody's ever watched Band of Brothers, that was a suicide mission. There were a lot of things that went on there. My grandfather flew 32 sorties as a bomber, as a pilot, a fighter bomber. You have to think about that in terms of most guys didn't live to see 20 sorties, 20 actual missions. He got 32, and I think before his unit came home. And from D-Day, a few days before D-Day, forward, bombing Germany, France, whatever. And so when I think about the overwhelming odds that most of these guys were killed, and that these possibilities that you may not have success and whatnot, I sort of sit back and go, I think what they're trying to say is we don't want to waste lives, which I totally agree with. You don't want to say, hey, go charge that bunker up there, and there's no chance of anyone surviving, but go do it anyway. I mean, I get that, but that's the only one I sort of ponder and go, I don't know. And again, reasonable is vague. What do we mean by a reasonable chance of success there? So I think it would depend on what their view of reasonable is versus mine, and ultimately, this is something that offends me as a soldier when people say we're sacrificing, our men to do something, and I think no, we're the men who signed that piece of paper sacrificing our lives, and we did it voluntarily when we signed, knowing that that was going to be a possibility, and yet we a lot of times, and particularly in higher level units, we choose the missions. We choose how they're formulated. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So you are free to say, I don't think it's a good idea. You may still have to go, but you're also free to adjust. So I just, that's the only one I think I would push back on. But again, I get it. I don't want to seem unsympathetic there. I'm sure somebody's going to want to say, oh, you're an idiot. And I get that.
No, that's all interesting thoughts too. And a couple of things too. One thing that we didn't really kind of touch on, but just kind of real quick, is talk like the oil situation. I don't know if you want to add on to this or don't talk about it, but we're actually now in a position too where we don't need the Iranian oil and stuff like that, because it would have been too economically unstable in the past for us to actually, start up all this beef with Iran when they held, some of the economic success of the West with when it comes to oil. But now, since we don't need their oil, it changes the scenario a little bit. So it puts us in a safer position if we did want to take action. And that's why it was kind of significant as well for Trump to make this move now too. Another thing, people, I saw a couple of comments in the chat, but I didn't read them too closely, but people were talking about nuclear, we don't want to start like a nuclear war, of course, right? And David Wood actually did a video today too, which I thought was really good, where he talked about how Iran will never have a nuke. And
right.
Sean, you probably actually, do you want to unpack that one a little bit? Or
yeah, so I didn't get to catch David's video. Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera to autofocus there again. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, you're good.
So let me do this one more time with a piece of paper there. It annoys me when it does that, so hopefully it'll that may work.
It got worse.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm not that good looking anyway, so that's all right.
Oh no, bro, when remember, like probably prior to about 2 months ago, all of my videos I'd go slightly out of focus. I try to get the focus on me because the autofocus would do that all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it was a mess. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So with that, and this is one where I have to be real careful what I say. So first off, is what those of you in the chat, if you're not non-military, and even if you are, you may not be aware of this, is that the Star Wars defense program was started by Ronald Reagan. All right. So quite a long time ago. And I'm old enough to remember when Reagan came in office the first time. So the thing is that, of course, it wasn't fully functional, but he enacted these. If I remember right, it was Reagan. Maybe it was Bush. I'm almost positive it was Reagan. At any rate, this is a system to shoot down intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay, intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, as they're sometimes referred to as. And so these are missiles that can reach the U.S. And while, yes, I would agree we don't want to start a nuclear war, what you have to understand is what is going on behind the scenes that the U.S. can't talk about or that I can't mention from previous understandings of things that have gone on, missions that I've been privy to, is that there is a lot more evil in this world that's going on. And so a lot of times when these things happen, you're getting the very tip of the iceberg of information as a civilian. And because of, if we release all of the other information, I think it would sway the public's opinion far greater in terms of some of these military actions. It's not always the case. We make mistakes, obviously, but you can't, because if you do that, then the enemy knows how you came to know this information, and you lose sources and people's lives are put at risk. And so you have to be real careful with that. So that's the first part of that. Going back to the defense mechanisms we have is, first of all, Iran doesn't have a nuke. Second, at least as far as I'm aware, they don't have ICBMs.
And building a nuke isn't going to work out for them either. And because of Israel too, like as soon as they start building one,
right,
Israel will wipe them out.
And that's right. We have our ally there in the Middle East, Israel. If we let no, this isn't, ironically, when I say let the dog off the chain, if you guys know Jews and dogs, I don't mean for that to be insulting at all. But if we let them off the chain, all right, not that we're necessarily we're not controlling them, but we're advising them, hey, look, please don't do this. It's not going to be good. All right. If Israel cuts loose, there won't be an Iran. I mean, their military is very strong. They've got quite a bit of weapon systems, and they too have different defense systems to stop, attacks, and it's pretty good at it. And so anyway, we've got quite a bit of different defensive systems, and like I said, I don't want to talk about that too much because it's secret still as to how the nature of those things, and I don't know all of them. Right. But so on the one hand, I would say, yeah, I don't know that that's as big of a worry, but yeah, one could slip through, and that would be horrible, right? But moreover, I think to the point that the person's stating is, we just don't want to start a nuclear war, whether we can win it or not. I would agree with that. In other words, it doesn't make any sense to be a bully. Okay, I agree with that the sentiment there. But again, just keep in mind, and I'll reference something I said in a video on this topic on my channel a few days ago, that if you guys watch Wood's channel, you know that a lot of times in these Arabic countries, the modus operandi for debates and whatnot is to bolster and to say very big or extraordinary things, and so it's not unusual to see this sort of posturing. And so just because somebody's saying one thing doesn't mean their intentions are supporting that. Look at the case of these 12 rockets. If they really were trying to do the damage, they wouldn't have launched them at those targets. I just don't think that would have been the way they would have gone about it. There are other ways they could have done things, other attacks they could have launched. But notice they didn't attack Israel either. And so I just, I don't think that that's the case.
And I would think so hopefully Israel kind of keeps it. Not Israel, Iran keeps this in check, because it seems to me like it could have just been a placeholder, right? Too, and they could wait a year, 2 years, or something. Who knows what they're plotting, But that's possible, or they truly do want to de-escalate in some kind of way, which seems kind of doubtful in my mind. I think if they do not, kind of press the envelope anymore, it's because they realize that we could wipe them out easily and destroy their economy. They have so many things going against them, but it is a little bit more complex because it's not as simple as one army, the U.S. Army versus Iran. It gets a lot more convoluted because of the hold that they have in the Middle East and that sort of thing as well. But okay, so let's go back to, we're going to talk again more about the Christian stuff in just 1 second, but just want to give a real quick shout out to Frank Christian and Cheryl R. and also Benjamin. Too far back. But hey, those are some memers. If they're in green, they're memers. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for your support, for supporting the channel and making everything happen. So,
there's new signups from tonight?
Oh, no, I don't know. I think they're just, they're memers. I don't know when they signed up.
Awesome. If you guys aren't members, sign up. What are you doing?
Yeah, he's talking about channel membership. So that's just a way for you guys to support the channel. Make everything work. So, by the way, Sean, you didn't even tell me you were rocking that hoodie, bro.
What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't tell you? Yeah, I love this thing. Thanks, when Kara said these things are soft, man, these things are like Snuggie soft. Y'all need to get one of these if you're anywhere. I'm in Florida and I'm rocking this thing because it's cold here right now. But these things are awesome, man. Yeah,
they are. They're soft. All right, hey, so let's get back on track. So back to how Christians should kind of think about this situation. Here's my kind of initial thought, and then Sean, I'll let you kind of go too. So when all this kind of stuff happened, me and my wife were talking to, and she's like, "Oh, this is crazy. Like, what if we get nuked?" And that sort of thing too. And the way I honestly see it, you know what I mean, is that we're I just played in my ear. We're Christians, right? So from a Christian perspective, this is obviously not the end, right? So from a Christian perspective too, I think if we all did get nuked, you know what I mean, like that too, we know where we're going, right? And if my whole family goes at the same time, you know what I mean, and we all go together, that's fine by me, you know what I mean? So be like, hey, here comes a nuke. Hey guys, we're all gonna just huddle up, and see you guys in a few minutes. You know what I mean? So anyways, from a Christian perspective, obviously we have a complete different perspective on this, and I don't want this to come across as if we don't value life or something like that. Obviously we do. We biblically commanded to value life and that sort of thing too, you know what I mean? And we value living, but we also believe that God is sovereign over all. And if it is our time for us to go be with him, then it is, you know. Eternity is a lot longer than just now, you know. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't value like the earth or, you know what I mean, or life or anything like that. Obviously that's not what I'm saying. But Sean, what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I agree with you 100%, brother. I think that I'll try to be brief with this, but I'll tell a quick story and hopefully not embarrass anyone. I won't name names, but when I was younger, my grandfather, I lost both my grandfather and uncle in like a year. And we were coming home from, I'm pretty sure it was my grandfather's funeral. And a family member said to me, it's okay to be sad, because I wasn't really showing any signs of being sad. And I was like, well, why would I be sad? And family members like, whoa, we might need to get you some help, you know. And I remember responding, I'm about 16. It's not like I'm 10 saying this. Okay, I'm not that smart. But I remember saying, well, if we're, same thing you were saying, John, if we're Christians, I don't understand. If grandpa was a very strong Christian, if he's really saved, well, he's in a better place. He was dying of something to do with his brain. I don't remember, it was a tumor, it was cancerous, what, but I do remember he was suffering a lot. He had all sorts of problems there towards the end. So he's living the life of Riley now in heaven. I mean, you know, he's living it up. And so I just couldn't fathom, what in the world would I be sad about? And moreover, if we're all Christians right now having this conversation, what are we worried about? We're going to see him. So, I mean, I sort of get it, but I don't, you know, it's better to be sad while they're going through those terrible experiences than once they're out of that terrible experience and on to talk about a better place. I mean, the best place. A friend of mine and Pastor or Dr. Shoemaker once said when we were in college, I remember him saying this in a chapel. He said, we say that this earth is the only hell a Christian will ever know, and the only heaven the unsaved will ever know. And I thought, man, that's a good point. Rather obvious, but when you think about it, but a good point. And so, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, brother. I don't know if you want me to unpack any of that at the moment now more. Or...
No, I thought that was good and clear. So, yeah, I completely agree, you know. And so I think about you guys too, real quick before I get into that. Hey, Ben West, welcome to the Mean Dream Team, man. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
And Benjamin Hadelman. Awesome, man. Glad you got your shirt. And lastly, Doc Funny, what's up, brother? Welcome to the chat. Yeah, it's good to see you here, man. Doc Funny's the man. So now, so what we're thinking, you guys, too, think about, so we're all around the world. Everybody that's watching this video right now is all around the world, right? And I think we should also be mindful of just how different things are all over the world too, you know. And so we got to keep our brothers and sisters that are in all these different countries in prayer too, because I mean, you even think about like in China, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up on that a little bit lately, but in China, the persecution against the church has increased, you know, and people are getting jailed and killed. And, you know, and this isn't just Christians there too, it's also Muslims, it's all religions, you know, in China. But also, I mean, you have North Korea, that's bad. You have all these countries that are really, really bad, you know, and they don't let you say what you want to say. That's why I think it's so incredibly important for us to keep free speech going in America, because there's not too many countries that are allowing this free speech, you know. And so it drives me nuts when I see people who are just so against free speech, right? They're just like against our country, against free speech. They're being brainwashed into something that they don't understand the implications behind. Yeah. And so, go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say, did you see that article come through? I know you and I use the same news app. Did you see that article come through about China and their schools and the limiting of, can I mention this point real quick?
Go ahead. Yep.
To bolster what you were just saying. So I just shut off my phone for the stream, but basically the article said that China has made a law now where they can't use any textbooks that are outside of their country. So no curriculum that's been written or developed outside their country. And literally it's because they don't want anything else influencing their students to believe anything that's not Chinese approved, because they want them to push, of course it was phrased in a positive way. They want them to push China forward or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's limiting freedom of speech, and you're literally it's thought control. So yeah, just goes to what you're talking about.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that too. I mean, I was planning on doing a video on the China situation too, because you think about, so The other day, I woke up and I was annoyed at YouTube because they've been like demonetizing all my videos lately, which didn't used to do, right? And I talked to Sean about it because I was frustrated. They've been demonetizing my videos, and then I'll submit an appeal, and then like after 48 hours or a day or two, 24 hours, 48 hours, then they would say, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? It wasn't not suitable for advertisers or whatever.
Right.
So, but by time they approve it, most of the money that I would make off of that video is gone, and my views are dropped during that time as well. And YouTube says, they swear up and down, they say that no, if your video is demonetized, it will still get just as many views. That's not true. I mean, yeah, creators talk about it all the time. People on YouTube talk about it all the time. So I was frustrated because I was like, man, you know what I mean? I don't know what they're doing on my channel. I don't know if it's a new algorithm thing or if they're just picking on me or what, you know what I mean? But it just seems, it's really frustrating because too, I've been trying to switch over, you guys know, I'll switch over into full time doing this, and so it's just bad timing. So anyways, I was like upset about that. And then I was like, man, you know what I mean? If they're persecuting me, this is annoying and, it makes me mad. Then I thought about like these Christians in China, right? Like that persecution to me is like way more severe than any of the stuff that I'm going on, that I have going on here in America too, and what's so crazy about it is because like everybody knows 1 Peter 3:14. Well, everybody doesn't know. 1 Peter 3:14 is one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And it's what's on these hoodies too. It's on actually Sean's version, not the blue one, but the other one. It says 1 Peter 3:14. And then I also have it on my Twitter. Yep. There you go. And it's also on my Twitter, it's pinned and stuff too. And that whole section there is talking about the persecution of the church and then how they should act, So it's like, even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not be afraid. Do not fear their threats. And so that's why I have the lion, because it's like, do not be afraid. And then underneath it says, do not be afraid, or is it on top or bottom?
On mine, it's on top. And I think First Peter, it's somewhere on here.
That's right. 1 Peter 3:14 or 14's on the bottom. So anyways, but yeah, because I mean, they actually have to live those chapters. Like if you look at like 1 Peter 2, for example, it's all on living with the culture who hates Christians, and then how to live with them. And 1 Peter 3, we're moving into how to deal with persecution. They're living that though, like, daily. You have to actually make these strong decisions to say, do I let them know that I worship Jesus? Or do I deny Jesus? If I deny Jesus, then maybe I can live longer. But if I don't, then I'm probably going to die or at least be persecuted and go to jail, those sorts of things too. That's really hard to, you know what I mean? That's tough if you have family and all that too. There's a lot of contingencies there. And so the fact that the underground church is surviving and thriving out there and not giving up, you know what I mean? And growing so much, you know what I mean? Is just, it's amazing to see how God works through this persecution, you know what I mean, and stuff too. So I think that it's, we always got to keep our brothers and sisters around the world in prayer. India's getting worse. A lot of my Indian subscribers have been bringing it up a lot. India's getting a lot worse too. North Korea has always been pretty bad, you know what I mean? But it's escalating. So it's just really bad. So what I want to say is, if you guys are in a place where you can have free speech and worship Christ freely, realize how much of a blessing that is, you know what I mean? And use that freedom to talk to all of your other non-saved friends and stuff like that too, so you can actually work harder at, you want to bring them to Christ because you have an opportunity to talk about it publicly. You might lose your job or something like that today if you mention specific views and stuff like that too. But I think in these other countries, it's a far higher price to pay because it could be the ultimate price of your life, So that's something that I would say that you guys should all kind of keep in mind. And Sean, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So a couple things. I'll start with that Iran, I don't remember the exact number, everybody, so forgive me. I'm just going to say ballpark. Years ago, I received an annual report of like the largest churches in the nation, and then where they are around the world. And Iran was growing. The underground church there was growing by leaps and bounds at the time. It was a few million. I don't remember the exact number, and I don't know where it is now. Same thing with China. Ironically, it seems to be that anywhere where there's vast amount of persecution, it seems to really, really spread. There could be different theories as to why that is, but even when, I don't know if I should talk about this. Well, I don't have to worry about it, I guess, for myself now, but even when I was in Afghanistan, I was able to witness to Afghan nationals. I won't say who, I don't want them in trouble, but they came to me. So just military working in the Pentagon, because you're not supposed to do that, but they came to me and were asking me questions. So it wasn't, I didn't approach them. It was nothing like that. And a lot of that came from the way I was treating them, that everyone else was sort of looking down on them and treating them badly. I was there early on in the war, so we had a much tighter relationship, but with the local nationals there. And I started out by treating them kindly, and then that gave me opportunities to talk to them and witness to them. And so from there, it just sort of snowballed. And then they started asking, because they noticed that other Muslims weren't treating them the way the Christians were treating them. And they noticed that. That does make a difference, y'all. Your testimony can make a huge impact on people. Now, obviously, you still need to give the gospel. I'm not suggesting that one is a supplement for the other, but what I'm saying is it can open doors to give you opportunities. And don't be afraid to play the long game. Obviously, if you can give the gospel anytime you get an opportunity, take it. Not suggesting otherwise, but what I'm saying is don't be afraid if you need to take more time to do that, because some of the most fruitful opportunities I've had with seeing people come to Christ have been over an established relationship first, and we become friends, and over time, because they're also observing the way I act. They start to see that what I believe is real, it's genuine, that, hey, I do make mistakes, but I'm also honest about that, and I try to, live out my faith accordingly. And as that happens, then they start really listening. And the same pastor, Dr. Shoemaker, same professor, had a phrase he used to say all the time, which was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's not a fake concern for them, but they just don't care, so it's
That's
important.
good. Oh, good, man. Real quick too, before we get going, yo, Doc Funny, thanks for the super chat, my man. Doc
Awesome,
Funny.
Doc.
He says, hey, John, keep doing what you're doing, brother. Great to see you live. Yeah. Hey, man, thanks. It's always good to read from you. And we missed you on the live stream on the Patreon Hangout, man. Would have been dope to see you, but hopefully you'll join the next one. But back to what Sean said, Sean, yeah, so I think about this because I think about when we think about this, has implications for the problem of evil, right? So a lot of the people that are not in the West might say that, the financial stability and all that stuff that the West has is a spiritual impediment to actually the growth of Christianity. And so we see all over the world right now, Christianity is truly growing, globally, it's growing very, very much, you know what I mean? Globally too. And in the US, it's not growing as much, obviously. And I haven't looked at the latest Pew, so I don't want to say which way it's going. But I'm pretty sure I think we're getting more polarized. I think you're getting the rise of secular people, but you also have religion that's growing alongside of it. From what I understand, that was the statistics a few years ago. So I'm not sure where it's at today. But the point here is that you look at all of this evil and suffering that's going on in some of these really poor countries, right? And in those countries, Christianity is thriving, you know what I mean? A lot of the times too. And so if Christianity is true, right? And this life is not the only life that you live, and you do suffer for, say, 30 years, 60 years, 90 years, 100 years, or whatever, just say this, obviously I don't wish this on anybody, right? But if they do suffer, then they have gained all of eternity, you know what I mean? Then I think that, just 100 years of suffering is not as bad as it would be on atheism. You know what I mean? If atheism's true and there is no life after death, then of course that's awful to suffer your whole life, right? So I could understand that. And I'm not saying it's good to, suffer or anything like that too. But I think that what's more valuable, what's more important are these things that are not temporal, the things that are eternal, So even if you don't have a lot of these things that we have in the West, like a cell phone and, all this kind of stuff like that too, these things are all temporal. These things are all going to die. They're going to go outdated. They're going to decrease value, all these different things too, but if you have your eyes fixed on what's eternal, and that's why I like Paul's scripture when he talks about that, fixing your eyes on the things that are not seen, because those things are eternal, instead of the things that are unseen that are finite, because that's what I think, I think that, obviously I think that makes a big difference. So that's just one kind of consideration that you can think about. Do you want to add anything onto that, Sean, or?
Well, I think you said a lot of good stuff in there. I got to think. I was so busy going, yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that it was interesting. I saw, and you kind of caught me by surprise with that. So I don't have the data in front of me, but something in Europe or the UK, I don't remember if it was the UK as well, where Christianity has gone back up a little bit. What's interesting is they have they're over there, they're suffering quite a bit more as Christians now in terms of free speech laws and all kinds of stuff being passed and sort of, I mean, I know that they're talking about police are able to show up and question you if you've made a comment that somebody didn't like now. So I'm not talking about a threat. I'm talking about just something that they didn't, I forget what they're calling it, but it's pretty sad when you think about that. And so people are paying a high price or being fired from jobs just for asking questions about certain beliefs. And I mean, you think about how hard that is. And so that may be attributed to that. Of course, it may not be, but I do agree with you, brother. And I think that when it seems like whenever we suffer, we tend to take these eternal matters more seriously and start thinking about these things, I think, deeper. Not just, I don't even mean just like the threat of death, because I get that, you know, the old chestnut, there's no atheists in foxholes. Not exactly true, but I get the point of it. But there's certainly far fewer. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's good. So good points here. So you guys, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. So if you guys have any kind of questions or anything like that you guys want us to comment on really quick, likely related to this topic, we prefer those, you know. But if you guys have any questions or anything like that you want to talk about real quick, we'll go ahead and take a few comments and then we'll get out of here. So real quick, another super chat from Doc Funny. Hey, appreciate you,
Awesome.
man. Yeah, thank you very much. Says, everyone, please stop with the foul language and hate speech. Please behave yourself in this chat. Yeah,
really?
No free speech here, son. No, just kidding. No, but really though, you guys watch the profanity and stuff like that too. If for even though the reason that YouTube is cracking down on that kind of stuff too. They have these new laws that they passed with harassment and that sort of thing too. You know, it's kind of going that no speech for way too. But they'll, so anyways, we're gonna have to start, deleting your guys' videos and stuff like that. Deleting your comments. If you have language and stuff, because if not, it's going to start suppressing the video and stuff like that too, if we allow it. So I don't care if anybody wants to say whatever you want to disagree with me, anything you want to say, I don't care. I'm not that kind of person. I don't get upset about disagreement, anything like that. Just don't be obnoxious and annoying. That's what I want to say. Okay. If you're obnoxious, and I know that's a little subjective, but the only kind of people that I've blocked from my channel have been people that are supremely obnoxious. I don't care if you disagree with me. It's even better if you talk to me calmly and you have good points. That's, that's great. But please don't be obnoxious and continue to use foul language, that sort of thing too. So, okay. So, yes, if you guys have a question, tag, what do you meme? So do the @ what do you meme? That way it will pop up as orange in my feed and then it will stand out. So right now, first one I see is just Travis tagged me and says, Travis says, thank you for the video. What do you mean? No problem, my man. Thank you for being here and watching. Appreciate it. Ben West says, I hope one day I can be like Dr. Funny. Yeah, me too, bro.
Me too. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. He's an awesome guy. And it's cool because I got to know him too. That's what's awesome. What I do like about the Hangouts is that I get to there's like those of you that come to the Hangouts, we all know each other, and so it's cool because I know what's going on in your life. I know, what I mean, your name, it's cool. We all talk and you guys know things about me and stuff. So it's really cool. Go ahead, Sean.
Doc, we sent you an invite too to a super secret squirrel. No, it's not really, but another group, because I moved my Patreon over. So just so you know, check that out in your inbox. I sent you an invite to that.
Word. All right, guys. Not seeing any questions here. Let me see. Travis says, what do you mean? I would like to see that discussed, how hate crimes can be used to suppress free speech. Yeah, if I understand your question right, you're saying how they can consider it hate crimes if you're just, I guess you're saying they're calling it hate crimes to suppress free speech, which is just terrible, I think. Like, I would never in a million years try to get somebody not to say something I don't like, right? You know what I mean? Like, on their own platforms too. Like, if they're on their platforms, they can say whatever they want, as long as they're not inciting violence or something like that, then by all means, you know what I mean? Give your perspective, give your views, you can be insulting. I don't care about that stuff. I would never even cross my mind, but a lot of people today tend to take that route. And I actually read an article not too long ago. Not sure I haven't looked at this, the studies that they did or whatever, but they said like Bernie Sanders supporters and who's the girl, the older lady? What's her name again?
Oh, I don't want to use the insult that the current administration uses for
Not
Elizabeth
AOC.
Warren.
Yeah, Elizabeth
Warren?
Warren. They said,
Okay, yeah.
but yeah, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren supporters are like, I can't remember the percentage. It was like 70% more likely to be against free speech than the rest of the population or something like that, you know. But I mean, obviously that kind of makes sense if they're supporting that ideology and the other people aren't, you know, but still.
I heard an Irish politician say recently about this very topic. She was saying that when groups cannot use logic and arguments to refute the truth, they have to suppress it. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense though. And because we're in a place now where feelings have trumped reason and thinking, you know, feelings people are identifying as themselves. So they think like, I am my feelings. And if people think they are their feelings and you say something mean, then you're like, you know, talking about them, you know, like, or it's like hurting the core of them and they can't take it. But that's why the world is so inconsistent right now and we're in trouble. The recent video I did on the guy that did the forced abortion pill, his girlfriend to take it. I can't remember what I named it. I said Today in Insanity or something like that. Yeah, it was a perfect example of the implications behind this kind of thinking, but there's limitless implications and these things are starting to come to pass. So I don't know what's going to change, but if something doesn't change, we have like the fall of Rome coming for us because we can't survive if it's this discombobulated.
Yeah, you're right, brother. And if I could make a comment too about some of this is that I think for me and it, you know, whether here on my channel or wherever I happen to be, if somebody's going to be rude and throw out ad hominems, which just means insults, I'm going to ignore them. But it's because I want them to reframe the statement. I want to have a dialogue. I want to hear why they disagree. I just want them to do it in an intelligent manner, and I know they can. And so most of the time I'll tell them, hey, just reframe that. I don't mind the different opinion or view or facts or any of that.
That's right. That's right. Yep. All right. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna see. We'll take one more question, guys. Do you see something on there or no?
I can't see it right now. I don't have it.
It's
open, but I don't have it sort of running in the background because I don't want to.
That's fine. No worries. Let's see.
No, I don't. But that's good. It means I guess we did a good job.
Yeah. I'm like lost because I don't even. Go ahead.
Well,
thing is hard for me to see. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, while we're waiting, hey, listen, y'all. So John won't ever say this or ask this of you guys, but I can do that. So so here's the thing, guys. Please consider supporting him either on Patreon or through the subscriptions on here. The subscription's a few bucks, and Patreon, I think. What's your lowest tier? Is it $1? $5?
$1.
$1. Yeah. I mean, you know, it does nothing in terms of and trust me, I give a lot more, and I work for, well, I don't get paid, but I volunteer my time for John, and I still donate quite a bit. All right, because I want to see him be able to go full time, because knowing him, I have the opportunity to speak with John sometimes several times a week. We hang out, we talk like this with each other. And I know that if he had that time to dedicate solely to ministry, you guys would get a lot more of him and those thoughts of his, because he would have more time to put out more material. So please just prayerfully consider it. That it means a lot to me if you would do that for him. It's a few bucks. It's really not much. And it would make a world of impact if everybody, you know, just gave a few bucks. So,
hey man, I appreciate that. No, thank you guys. And for those of you that, you know, obviously can't support, hey, if it's going to put you in a bind or break you or something like that, take care of your family first. Like take care of yourself first, your family, you know what I mean? I don't want, you know, you guys to be put out, but if you are able, you know, if everybody pitches in, you know, a little bit, then it does help for this to become a reality. Me and Sean were just talking, we did the math. What are we, about 80% there, something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I was way off. I was like, yeah, you're 10%, right? And
I think we're like,
oh yeah, that's
85 or something. I don't know. There's something like that. So, but you know, it'd be awesome to hit, God willing. I think that we will, but it'd be awesome to have you guys' support. But yeah, no, I appreciate you guys that are able to, and you guys that aren't able to. I appreciate just your support, your prayers, your likes, you know, all that kind of stuff, shares, all that stuff. So I really do love all you guys, and I appreciate all of you guys too. So
thank you, Kenneth. I saw that come through. He said, who let the dogs out? Kenneth did a super chat, and he said, I don't know if that showed
Kenneth,
up.
Thanks.
Oh, wait.
Says, thank you. Thank you both of you. Thank you both of you. God bless. Question: who let the dogs out? Right on, brother. Appreciate it, my man. Kenneth's a good friend of mine too, man. So it's been awesome. I got to know Kenneth over the years, and Kenneth, I miss you, man. Since you moved to Singapore, you don't stay in touch no more, but you did invite me to your wedding, but you know what I mean? But anyways, oh yeah, my wife said hi too, Kenneth. She's waving over and said hi. So anyways, good to see you, brother, man. So, yeah, you guys, this was awesome and fun. I appreciate all of you guys that showed up. Thank you guys for coming. I'm planning on doing, we'll probably do another live stream maybe this weekend. I don't want to guarantee. I'm just trying to not overdo myself going, you know what I mean? Because I keep doing too much and I need to, you know, try to conserve energy and get some other stuff done. So anyways, but maybe we'll do another live stream this weekend would be good. I'm trying to work on some videos. Hope I get some new stuff out for you guys this week. If not, then for sure at the beginning of next week, we'll have some new videos. So love you guys. Thanks for joining me. And we will see you guys next time. And yo, Sean, but the next time that somebody thinks that what do you mean is whack, what are you going to say, man?
What do you mean? I guess it's up to me to hit the end button, isn't it?
No, actually, I think I can.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll see. There we go.